Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inter Show. Everything I think has gone out of the window tonight. We had a plan about what to talk about, Nainggolan, and how we were going to make up, or how it looked like we were going to make up the plus Valencia, which is necessary before the 30th of June. But UEFA has made a decision which I think has rocked everybody. I think it's rocked the whole Interista world, other than apparently Sonning and the staff at Inter, which is very strange. Joining me on the show today is Anthony. Anthony, how are you?
Good, Andrew. Thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. And Alessandro, how are you? I know you've just got off a train, so how are things going for you? Not sure if Alessandro is there yet. Hopefully he'll join us. I know he has a very small window in which to speak with us, so hopefully he'll join us soon. Basically, I was probably like most Interisti, I picked up La Gazzetta dello Sport this morning, or whatever is your favourite way of following Inter, and was looking at the exciting news of Nainggolan coming in, the possibility. I think I saw it on FC Inter News of both Nainggolan and Rafinha, and the way that we really seem to be progressing, especially the issue of La Gazzetta dello Sport from yesterday, which said that we had 70 million to play around with. UEFA have made the decision tonight that we're not out of the fair play window when it comes to the 30th of June, as everyone was expecting, or as I said earlier on, everyone other than Sonning and the staff were expecting. I think Alessandro has joined us there now. Alessandro, are you there? No, I'm still not getting Alessandro. But basically, everybody thought that the financial fair play regulations and the settlement agreement came to an end on the 30th of June. As long as we made the requisite plus Valencias, UEFA have just said tonight that no, we still have to remain within the regulations, or the punishment regulations, for another year, and our Champions League squad will be reduced. Anthony, what's your take on this situation?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the news I was expecting to read as I just woke up in Sydney. So basically the governing body of UEFA handed it down and just laid down the gauntlet and said we're not going to meet the regulations. So what this means for our actual transfer budget and where we head from here, I'm not too sure. I know this really does come to bite us in the backside in terms of the lucrative deals we made for Kondogbia, João Mario, and Gabriel Barbosa. Those are the biggest culprits here in our situation. I think those are the ones that have really come to hurt us the most. So now we really need to look at where we can generate the funds from in order to sell some of these players and gain some of our funds back. And I'd say starting with players like João Mario and Gabriel Barbosa, Jason Murillo as well. Basically anyone that has still got any sort of value left that we know are not going to be an integral part of our squad for Spalletti should be moved on straight away. I didn't realize until I read a few more articles that our Champions League squad was to be reduced. I actually think that's pretty bad, in my opinion. I think we're going to need as many players as we possibly can when it comes up to playing 2 matches a week with European football. So yeah, overall, it's not great news. But as I said, I don't really know where that leaves us in terms of our spending now in this Mercato. How many players can we continue to go for? Do we need to prioritize maybe just one or two positions? And because the players we've been linked with, they haven't exactly been the cheapest on the market. What do you think?
My biggest thing is it seems that if we bring in somebody and we don't match the money involved in terms of bringing them in, then we actually can't use them in our Champions League squad. So, for example, if we were to bring in Nainggolan, which would be probably 30 or 40 million of we can't use him unless we bring in 30 million from another player. Our understanding all along was that until the 30th of June, we had to make 45 million in plus Valence, and then we were out of the settlement agreement. I think every Inter supporter understood that to be the situation. Certainly the Italian press, that's what they but it seems that the only people involved with Inter who did know were Sonning and the staff at Inter, because checking on FC Inter News and everything that comes through on it, they're saying that the Inter board, the Inter management, the Inter staff all knew what was going on and what was expected of us, and that this additional 12 months, if it does indeed prove to be only, was not a surprise to them, and that's my biggest concern. What do you? I'll be honest with you, because I'm struggling to understand this, Anthony. What do you think Sonning is playing at here? Because it's not the first time that they seem to have led fans astray.
Yeah, it doesn't serve well for fans' confidence at the moment. And, I hate to mention Milan as well in this situation, but there are a few similarities there in terms of the board, withholding certain information, making certain plans and promises to the fans that they fall short on. So it'll be really interesting to see how they come out to explain it. I know all the news is very fresh in the news today, so I'll hold my tongue until Sinning does come to explain it. But it doesn't really serve well for confidence. And to be honest, the biggest thing I'd be taking from this is that I really hope it doesn't hinder the renewal of our manager, Spalletti, because I know that he's been holding off a little bit on his contract renewal just to make sure that him and the board are on the exact same page in terms of, the players that he can bring in and how he can develop his squad in his own view for this upcoming Champions League season. And I really thought he had the board's full support, Sonning and Zhang and co. But yeah, this news definitely is rocking. So let's just hope there aren't too many repercussions from this in terms of losing our manager.
I got to be honest, and I think I could be talking from the. It's the natural reaction to a shock like this, but Sonning, I think, has really got the front up on this. They're either in Inter for the long haul and really wanting to make us a successful football club going forward. Alternatively, they're prepared to give fans a false impression of what's going on, which they already did last season. And let's be honest about it, as I think you've already sort of suggested, the transfers are not forthcoming this season, then Spalletti more than likely is going to walk, which would be a disaster as far as we're concerned, especially with the added demands of the Champions League coming up. I think Sonning sort of has to do a Paris Saint-Germain job on this, or what appears to be a Paris Saint-Germain job on it, that, look, UEFA, you can say what you like, but we're going to go ahead and do what we want. I mean, they're saying that if we bring in Nainggolan for 30, 40 million and we don't meet the 30, 40 million cost, then we can't use Nainggolan in the Champions League. Well, how has Paris Saint-Germain met the 200 or 250 million that they
Yeah, look, it's absolutely bizarre.
without any? Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. It's absolutely
Anthony,
bizarre. I
are you
haven't seen
there?
them generate any. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just went all grey for a second.
Anthony, you're breaking up a good bit.
Yeah, I can hear you now, though. Hello?
It's the phone signal, so I'll just carry on and say it's just bizarre that these same conditions don't seem to be falling down on Paris Saint-Germain, and the fact that they're able to play Neymar in the Champions League without any repercussions, and yet we're left in a situation where every year this situation seems to grow. What's your take on it? Anthony seems to be having some technical difficulties there, so I'm just going to pause the podcast for a minute. But for those who are listening, the podcast should just flow as normal. It should just carry on. So please stay listening. Hello, Anthony. Anthony, are you back?
Yep, I'm here. I can hear you, Andrew.
Perfect. I'm not hearing you completely right, but I can hear you. My thing is, I fail to see where these regulations are being applied fairly, because, as we were talking about earlier on, the fact that Paris Saint-Germain were able to spend incredible money on Neymar and use him in the Champions League, and yet we're being told that we can't use anybody that we sign unless the money is met. It just doesn't ring true. Something is going wrong here, and I think it's coming to the time where Sonning really has to put up and say, we're not going to accept this anymore. It's unfair, and if necessary, take it down a legal route, because it's just it's not right. And I think that other clubs have suffered in the past. I know that, for example, Manchester City were punished previously, whereas I think Paris Saint-Germain, and I keep saying about Paris Saint-Germain, but it's the most obvious example of a club which has continuously gone ahead with almost zero repercussions out of this. Anthony, what do you think of it?
Yeah, something just doesn't add up about it at all, Andrew, to be honest. And it does reek as though there is some favoritism being shown here. So I'd be all for Sunin coming out and saying, look, this doesn't add up. This isn't fair. These aren't the same regulations that were being imposed on this club for this reason. So why should they apply to us? That information about needing to generate funds to be able to field Nainggolan, that really puts a dent in our aspirations to sign him, because he would be a player that would be purchased with a strong reason for playing in the Champions League, a player who brings that kind of presence on a world-class level. So if that is true, then we're going to have to start thinking about how we're going to generate the funds to fund a move for one of the world-class players. But I definitely agree with you when you say that we should be able to take it down a legal route, or indeed do some sort of investigating on the matter, because it can't end here.
No, and as I said earlier on, my biggest concern is the fact that FC Inter News is reporting that nobody actually at Inter was surprised, which suggests that it was only the fans that had been taken by surprise by this. the fans were hoping for a summer of serious investment, getting excited about Nainggolan and other signings, and it puts a different complexion on the business that was done earlier in the summer with free transfers, which is, in my opinion, good transfer business as Asamoah and De Vrij. But whilst I was taking it as a sign that the club was suddenly more astute in terms of its purchases, I was starting to ask the question of why were they so desperate for free signings? I'm very worried that Sonning isn't being honest with the fans, and Spalletti has already alluded to it. What do you think? Do you still trust Sonning, Anthony, or what's your opinion on it?
I'd say I'd still do trust Sonning. I mean, after the Champions League final, seeing Steven Zhang walk onto the field, he did seem like he was very emotional. He seemed like he was very happy. Like this is something he's very passionate about. He looked like an Inter fan for a moment. So there's no reason to not believe Sonning when they say that they're interested, that like they're building a project here. There's just a very, very unfair hurdle-lit route that is there to go through. And I think that's the biggest thing for us at the moment. So to answer your question, I'd say I'd still do trust Sonning for a little bit longer. But if there starts to become a rift between him and Spalletti does start to see a big problem, then I would be all on Luciano's side and all trust for Sonning would go out the window. But as I said, it's very early, so I'll let it marinate for a little bit more time before I make a big decision like that. But my biggest concern is just the whole Spalletti relationship with Sonning. If everything would be squashed for me, if Luciano would come out in the next 24 to 48 hours and say that everything is fine, because a lot of my trust is built into him, because he has a lot of emotional energy invested.
I would agree with you on that. At his time of life, and let's be honest about it, an awful lot of people give Spalletti a hard time in terms of the fact that he hasn't won anything in his career, which is not strictly true. He hasn't won anything in Italy, I think, by a couple of Coppa Italias, but he has gone close to winning the Scudetto with a slightly less fashionable. As you can gather, we've had some technical issues with recording the show this evening. Unfortunately, I've completely lost connection with Anthony. Alessandro was also to join us, but I don't seem to have been able to make a connection with him. The only reason for it, I can imagine, is that there is a storm going over Ireland at the moment. Maybe it's playing havoc with my own signal, but hopefully you'll forgive us if we cut the show short this week. Just to say that Maicon won the Inter Best 11 right back position with 61% of the vote. Beppe Bergami was in second place with 31%. So the side is starting to take shape with Julio Cesar in goal and Maicon as the right back. We'll be running left backs, the left back poll across the next week. There were comments about why weren't we including Javier Zanetti. We are going to include him, but we're borrowing slightly from the La Gazzetta dello Sport Best 11 competition, where they had him in an alternative role. So we're going with that, and he will be appearing in the poll for that position across the summer. The World Cup obviously starts tomorrow. I think everybody is looking forward to that. Football supporters will be looking forward to a couple of matches every day. Some days there's 3 matches, I think. In terms of supporting a World Cup team, only Anthony actually has a team that he has a direct personal connection with at the World Cup. So what we've done is we've each selected a potential World Cup winner that we're going to support through the tournament, and we have selected each a minnow who we're hoping will also do well. Alessandro has gone for Belgium and Iceland. Anthony has gone for Portugal and his native Australia. James has gone for Brazil, and because he also selected Iceland with Alessandro, and we're trying to have as many different teams as possible, I'm going to put Tunisia onto him. So James will be supporting Brazil and Tunisia. I hope you're listening, James. It's been decided for you. In terms of myself, I'm following France, and I'm also hoping that Morocco do well. As I said, we've lost connections, and it is only myself that will be finishing off the show tonight, so it only leaves me to say Forza Inter, and hopefully you'll forgive us for the technical issues that we've had.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.